This is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Today I have a very special treat for you. We're going to go over each one of these juicers, but in a very new way. Now, if you have been following me, I do have an article on my website entitled Low RPM Juicers, where I go over these machines because in general these machines run at a much lower RPM, or more appropriately, revolutions per minute. So if you're a techie and into cars and things like that, you know what RPM stand for, but if you're a homemaker or not, you don't know what it is. So RPM stands for revolutions per minute. And that's how fast the motor or the juicer spins. And why is this important? Why are the RPMs important? Because in general, the faster or the higher the RPM, the faster the juicer's running. Number one, the more noise it creates, or the louder it is. So if you want a machine that's quiet, then you want generally a machine that's lower RPM. Number two, and this is actually more important for me, is the oxidation factor. So what is the oxidation factor? Well, the oxidation factor is basically the faster the juicer runs, basically the faster it's working. So that could be a good thing because you'll be done juicing quicker. But the bad thing is that the faster it runs, the more oxygen that is being introduced into the juice because of a fast spinning motor. So that may not be a good thing. Not to say, once again, I always say this, not to say that a high-speed juicer that runs at 10,000 RPMs, and we don't have any of those on the table today, is a bad thing. It's definitely better than no juicer, but the lower RPM machines, in my opinion, are more beneficial because they probably extract a higher level of nutrition out of the juice without oxidizing it as much. So there are some manufacturers of juicers that are actually on this very table that say, with our juicer, you can store your juice for up to 72 hours with minimal nutrient degradation or minimal nutrient loss after it's been juiced. The problem is once you start to juice anything, whether it's a carrot, an apple, apple's actually really telltale sign. Juice an apple. You're going to get the juice, and actually within a few minutes of the apple juice coming out, it's going to start to turn brown, or especially the foam at the top is going to start to turn brown. Now that's oxidation occurring. Now if you let that happen long enough, pretty much it'll like your juice is going to go bad, it's going to taste sour, it's not going to taste good. So in general, I don't recommend that you ever save your juice unless you absolutely must. And even though some of these manufacturers claim you could store their juice for up to 72 hours, I still strongly encourage you to drink your juice right after it's made for highest benefit. So I always encourage you to drink your juice right after it's made for the highest benefit. Why do I say this? Well, there's a Dr. Garnett Cheney working at Stanford with Jay Kordich, formerly known as the Juice Man, now known as the Juice Daddy, and they healed people with ulcers, and they gave them fresh cabbage juice. And they learned that if they gave the cabbage juice like just 15 minutes after it was made, the cabbage juice didn't have the same beneficial effects as if they fed them the cabbage juice that was made right then and there. That's because besides just regular vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants, and phytochemicals, and phytonutrients, there's so many different things in the juice and in vegetables and fruits that we were not even aware of yet that may dissipate. So give yourself every possible advantage when you're juicing and drink your juice fresh as you can. That being said, if you got to go to work and you can't bring your juicer to work or have your juicer in your break room at work, then the best way to store your juice, once again, is take your juice, pour it into a cold thermos or a cold bottle, glass bottle, and fill it up to the top, like almost overflowing. So when you put the lid on, there's no extra airspace in that juice. Then screw the lid on tight, keep it cold, take it into work, and drink it that day. And for me in general, if I ever save juices, which is a rare day that I ever save a juice, I always drink it the next day. That's pretty much it. But normally I pretty much make my juice as I need it because that's actually the best. And I want to encourage you to do the best that you possibly can do. In any case, so for some people, RPMs are really important. And what we're going to do today is we're going to do the RPM test. So we're going to compare the RPMs of not only all these different machines, but we're going to compare the actual RPMs of the machines with what the manufacturer claims the RPM is at. And I've been wanting to do this test for a long time, and I love gadgets and new toys besides juicers. I got one right here. This is called an X-Tech microprocessor tachometer. So this device will allow you to measure the RPMs or speed of basically any motor up to 19,999 RPM. So all these are under that amount, so we'll be able to measure those. So before we get into this RPM comparison, what I want to do is I want to talk about the different style of juicers and how they work so that you'll be more familiar with them when we're doing the testing. So over on this side we have the Omega Vert 330 HD juicer, and this juicer is a vertical single auger style juicer. So what that means, there's an auger and basically you put the produce in, and the auger basically chunks off pieces of the produce, goes around, chops it, and then basically compresses it and literally squeezes the juice out. So this is a vertical style. I like this style because it generally can accept larger chunks of produce and process it much quicker than these guys, which are basically the same exact design, a single auger style machine, but instead of being a vertical, these are a horizontal. So the horizontal augers have been out for many, many years, and the vertical augers are basically the newest style juicer on the market today. Both of them have their pros and cons. So for the average person that wants to juice most fruits and vegetables, I generally recommend the Omega Vert 330 HD or the Omega Vert 350 HD, basically the same machine except for the color, because they tend to juice most fruits and vegetables and do a really good job at doing that. Over on these machines here, these machines actually were derived from the original wheatgrass juicer that was really good at juicing wheatgrass. So if you want to juice a lot of wheatgrass, these are the machines that actually recommend more, or if you want to juice a lot of leafy greens. These will also juice, common fruits and vegetables, and they'll work as well. Plus, these machines offer you the additional advantage of offering you to basically process or homogenize different fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. So with either of these two machines, you can take whole cabbage, put it through the machine with a blank plate, and what will come out is basically mushed up cabbage with the juice, and you can basically ferment that into your own fresh sauerkraut at home. Actually, even no salt is needed. I have a video, if you want to check that out on YouTube, explaining how to do just that. Also with these machines, you can make your own nut butter. So if you put roasted peanuts through here, you're going to basically get chunky style peanut butter out of that. Now if you want to do raw nuts, then that gets a little more tricky. There's not a high oil content in the raw nuts to make it homogenize or stick together. So you might have to take that mixture and put it back through a couple times. I find raw macadamia nuts work the best, and actually macadamia nuts are my favorite nut. Another thing you can do with this style machine is basically make the banana ice cream or banana sorbet. So you just take ripe bananas, you peel them, you freeze them up in like a Ziploc bag or a glass storage container. Then you take them out, put them through the machine with a blank plate, and you basically make banana ice cream. Actually, that's quite delicious. So that's these styles here. This is the Samson 9001 juicer, and this one is the Omega 8005 Nutrition Center. Next over here we have the Green Star Elite GSE 5000. This works a little bit differently. This is a twin gear juicer. So we can open this up and show you the two gears. They look much like, inside transmission of a car for the guys out there. Just like two gears that literally spin together, and as you put the produce into here, basically it's crushed and squeezed. And actually this is a three-stage operation. Basically it's crushing, mixing, and then pressing. So this one you could also do the nut butters and the homogenizing with. Go ahead and put that back together real quick. This one runs at 110 RPMs. And then finally, over on this side, we have the Champion Juicer. Now the Champion Juicer has been made for well over 50 years now. It's I like to consider it a dinosaur. It's like a car made in the 1960s. They were built like tanks, and they run like forever. And this thing they're still made in the USA actually, so that's really nice. But pretty much this one runs at 1725 or 1725 RPM, so that's a much faster, and it's going to oxidize your juice faster in my opinion, but it might also juice faster. And one of the things is it also does come with a blank plate. So this is the original juicer that came with a blank plate, and you can make your nut butters in here and actually the banana sorbet or banana ice cream. And most people actually like the banana ice cream out of the Champion because as you put the frozen bananas in, it's running so fast and it's introducing air into that juice, makes it nice and fluffy. Whereas these machines over here will give you more of a hard pack. So without further ado, let's get into the real world RPM comparison test to see what we get with our X-Tac digital tachometer lines up with what the manufacturer is claiming. Now the main reason for me doing this is just out of curiosity to see what it is, plus for you guys to see what it is, plus it's to keep manufacturers honest. I think that's very important that manufacturers stay honest with saying what their true RPM is and not making up numbers, making it lower or higher than it actually is, but just saying what it really should be. Now in some cases there may be variations in certain models from the motor or from whatever, but you know what? Hopefully they're going to be right on what they say they are. So without further ado, let's go ahead and gear up. Number one, we're going to have to use the safety glasses, and I encourage you never to do this at home. I will be defeating the safety mechanisms to allow these machines to work when they're not properly assembled. Now those are in here so that you will only use, and the machine will only come on when they're properly assembled, because if the machine's not properly assembled and you're trying to use it, you can injure yourself. So don't do this at home. So let's get into this. First, we're going to use the Omega Vert 330 HD. This is a heavy duty model, and that's a model I recommend, the Vert 330 HD or the Vert 350 HD. Both these models run at an 80 RPM that is claimed by Omega. So let's get into this test and take this apart and check out the motor shaft. That's the motor shaft where we're going to be measuring at. We're going to go ahead and turn on our tachometer. Alright, so there's a tachometer on the top of the machine. Now we're going to turn this machine on. We're reading at 0. Let's see what we get. Alright, there we go. So Omega rates this at 80 RPMs, and I'm seeing that it's spinning at 78, 78.3. Looks like it's pretty much stable at 78.3, 79, 78.5. So this comes in at under 80 RPM, so that passes the Discount Juicers test. So next, let's test the Samson 9001 machine. We're going to go ahead and take off the juicing parts on the machine and turn this machine on, and we're going to go ahead and put that tachometer up and let's see what we get. Nice slow running machine there. Alright, this one's running at 91.4. 91.4, look at that, that's solid on there. I mean, that's a smooth running machine, 91.3. So this one is rated at 80 RPM, so Samson doesn't pass the test. Let's get some truth in advertising. They should be really rating it around 90 RPMs versus 80 RPMs. Let's go ahead and turn that off. And next, we're going to go over to the Omega 8005 Nutrition Center. Let's take the juicing parts off once again. Put our tachometer in there. It's reading at 0. Turn this on, see what we get here. Uh-oh, this one's running at 95.1 RPM. So this one is rated once again at 80 RPMs. Looks like it's down at 95.0, 95.1 RPMs. So that's 15 RPMs faster. This one doesn't pass the test. They should rate this once again at 90 or 95 RPMs to have some truth in advertising. Next, we have the Green Star Elite Juicer GSE 5000. This one is rated at 110 RPM, so let's go ahead and take this machine apart. And let's do the RPM test to see how many RPM it really runs at. Alright, so the machine's all apart. Here's the main motor shaft. We're going to go ahead and put our RPM tachometer on the motor shaft. Turn it on. It's at 0. Turn the machine on, and whoa, look at that thing, that's spinning up pretty quick there. This one's rated once again at 110 RPMs, and check it out, man, it's all over the place. It's 120, 118, 120, 118, 120, 118. Looks like it's just going back and forth between 120 and 118, 122, 117. So this is not quite as consistent as the other machines, and this one actually also is running a good, I'd say 10 RPMs over the rated amount. About the 120 average is what I'd like to say. So the last 3 machines have run, 10 RPMs higher than the stated amount. Next, let's go ahead and go to the Champion. Let's go ahead and take the juicing parts off this. Now, once again, do not try this at home. Turn it on, and we're going to turn this Champion. And now, once again, don't try this at home. All right, there we go. This is rated at 1725, and this one is jamming along at 1782. So that's at least like almost 60 RPMs higher than it's rated. Wow, so this one's running real fast. Once again, do not try this at home. 1783 is what we're running at. We're going to go ahead and turn that off and turn off the digital tachometer. Alright, so let's go over the results. Let me first take off these safety glasses. I'm glad to say that the one juicer on the table that passed the RPM test is the Omega Vert 330 HD. and that's truth in advertising. So it was actually underneath the stated RPMs. The other machines on the table were all over the stated RPMs. The Samson was over by 10 RPMs, and once again, these are not major differences, but once again, we want honesty in advertising, and we want the manufacturers to fess up. If their machines do run at a higher RPM, they should go ahead and change the specs or the specifications on them so that people know the real RPM and not try to like say, oh, mine's 50 RPMs, and then they're really like 80 or 100, you know. Like, just like the Vert, 80 RPMs, it's actually underneath that amount. So this was 10 over. The Omega 8005 was approximately 15 over. The Green Star was approximately 10 RPMs over. So you know what? I got to give them some kind of range, like a variance of 10 RPMs. But nonetheless, they should be accurate, more accurate. And the Champion was about, 55 to 60 RPMs over the stated RPMs of 1725. So does this all really matter? Well, you know what? It doesn't really matter too much because 10 RPMs over is not going to make a major difference. But what does matter is going from, like, say, 80 or 90 RPMs up to 1700 RPMs, because that's like 17 times the RPMs. So once again, all these machines will produce a different result using different produce. And I would encourage you to check out my other videos on YouTube that show me using these machines with different styles of produce. Because the machine that's the best is not necessarily the one that has the true RPM, like the Omega Vert, but it's the juicer that's going to best juice what you want to juice most and what you want to do with the juicer the most. So hopefully you've enjoyed learning about the true RPMs of the machine. Once again, this is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for our YouTube visitors.